And we're going to visit Astrid, who lives in one of the other great super cities in the world, Sao Paulo, a city, unbelievably, of 19.6 million people. That's the entire population of Australia in a tiny city. A terrifying concept, if ever they decide to move to Australia. Now, Sao Paulo is an incredible place. If any of you have been there, it's a combination almost of the madness of Mexico City mixed in with the skyscrapers of Tokyo. But in the world that Astrid grew up in, she, a bit like Suming in China, didn't access the internet from home. In fact, she grew up in a favela. And in the favela, there were actually dozens of what they called LAN houses, or cyber cafes. A lot of these cyber cafes started because the Brazilian government had a program to not give away computers, but lease them out very cheaply per month. So a lot of Brazilian entrepreneurs took a hold of them and opened up businesses. Now, these are wonderful hotbeds of stolen software and illegal piracy. In fact, the one I went into in a favela recently, a couple of weeks ago in Brazil, the guy had a red hot button under the desk. And what they did, they had a system, there was a spotter outside, and someone would yell out, "Cops!" And the guy would hit the red button, and all the screens would change to something boring in the cafe. They should bring that into offices at work, you know, when someone's got Facebook in Norway. It's like someone's got to hit a red button and everyone goes like back to like a Norwegian website. But it's an incredible site. And the thing about Brazil is that they love the internet. In fact, Brazilians spend more time on the internet, and they're perhaps some of the most social people on the planet. This is the head of MTV in Latin America talking about how he thinks that social media for Brazilians is very different to that in America.
You know the Anglo-Saxons, like the personal space, okay, we don't have that. We're loving people. We use the hands when we talk, we touch each other, we hug each other. You show me, I kissed these two guys when I met him. Probably that way of relation translated to the web. So we are very much into connection, very much into sharing experience, but not into I wouldn't say like, probably you won't see a recommendation of a product bought in Amazon from a Latin American user. Because we're not that into that kind of opinion. Isn't it like, we don't have the need to be ourselves heard, listened to. We're very much into like, I met this girl, or I bought a new house, or I just had like my dog has a flu, and this is my baby, and who are you? I want to pick you up, whatever. Very much into personal connections, not much into publishing.
You can see why the Brazilians on Orkut scared off everyone else when they joined. And, you know, I was having this conversation with one of the speakers, Jonathan Harris, the other day, and he said, you know, he'd heard that the reason why Orkut was so powerful in Brazil over Facebook was because one of the great pioneers of the early internet, J.P. Barlow, thought it'd be funny to give his first 50 invitations to Brazilians. So I thought, that's a good story. So I dug up the original video on YouTube, and I'll show that to you in a minute. So you can see Orkut, the number one Facebooking website, totally dominating the traffic is Brazil and India, you know. And in this, it's something like 90% penetration in these countries versus Facebook. This is J.P. Barlow talking about why Orkut really took off in Brazil.
I had a young friend who worked for Google who was experimenting with social software. He was going to start up a social software site. And he gave out 100 invitations to 100 people who were all Silicon Valley nerds. And gave them each 100 invitations. I sent all of mine to Brazil as an experiment. Because I felt like
you can imagine Google were really thankful for that.
Thinking about the network that was Brazil and is Brazil, and you know, it's still insufficiently accomplished as Brazil. Everything is wired in here. This is a small country here, Brazil, with all its millions of people. It's small because everybody knows everybody, and they know everybody's secrets, and they know the whole deal. It's a very networked society.
I'll stop before he gets on to the stranger parts of his story. But Brazil is a strange and magical place. And it's not every culture that you can imagine where they hire a former musician to be the Minister of Culture. But that's Gilberto Gil, whose music you hear playing behind me. He was a real free culture advocate. And one of the most powerful things he did to bridge the digital divide in Brazil was to set up cultural centers across the whole country where he put in scanners, studios, free open source PCs to let the people of Brazil, even like 5 years ago, create their own culture. And this is one of those digital centers behind me. And you can see here, like they arm them with digital technology. And in many ways, this is exactly the kinds of forward thinking that you're seeing in other BRIC countries as well as they try to get their rising middle class to join the internet. Of course, there's always a dark side. And one of the strangest and most terrifying phenomena now in Sao Paulo is what they call virtual kidnappings. And it works like this. You get a phone call in the middle of the night saying, "We've kidnapped your parents. And if you don't come in 2 hours with money, we'll kill them." And you try and call them, you can't reach them, you panic, and if you turn up with the money, they kidnap you. Because the truth is they don't have your parents. The people making the phone call are in jail. They use remote-controlled helicopters to fly mobile phones into prisons, from where the inmates randomly dial numbers and do virtual hijackings. It's an example of when you're desperate for money, just how innovative you can be with using new technologies.